Well, hey there, tribe. Welcome back. This is This Week in WordPress and Tech. You are listening to episode 686. We've got a very robust panel here today. I am the rose among thorns, I think it's fair to say. We've got a bunch of strapping gentlemen that I'd love for you to meet. Would you like to hear who your sponsors are? I mean, your panelists. Let's start with Jonathan, our fearless leader.
Hi there, folks. It's Jonathan Denwood from WP-Tonic, where we help you build membership websites on WordPress.
John Locke.
Yeah, like you said, John Locke from Lockdown SEO.
Mr. Vito Peleg.
I'm the co-founder and CEO of Atarim, which is a platform that helps web agencies and freelancers to collaborate with their customers.
Spence from WPLaunchify.com.
And Andrew Palmer.
I'm Andrew Palmer from Bertha. We help people. We're changing the way you write copy in WordPress using bertha.ai.
And my name is Stephanie Hudson. I'm the co-founder of Focus WP, where we help agencies to scale and grow by outsourcing white label development and design and all other agency services. Before we dive into this week's articles, why don't we hear a little message from our major sponsors? And we're back, just like that. Castos and Blog Vault both have a special offer for the tribe. You can check that out among a whole bunch of other recommendations and cool things. WP-Tonic.com/recommendations. Now let's dive into our stories. The first story up today on the WP Tavern website: plugin directory limits ownership and committer changes on official, featured, and beta plugins. This title just rolls off the tongue. So clear. Jonathan, what do you think about this move they're making?
I think they need to shorten their title.
Tighten up that title a little bit, yeah.
It sounds like it's like me, like one of my dyslexic titles, doesn't it, Stephanie? Doesn't it? It rambles on forever, doesn't it? Well, this just continues. It's like one of these stories like Elizabeth, really, isn't it, Stephanie? It just goes on and on and on.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But it just goes on forever, doesn't it? You think they just get to grips with this and just get the frigging thing sorted out, but it will never happen. I think we'll still be talking about this in 5 years' time if it's still around, won't we, Stephanie?
For those who haven't read the article, this is about controlling who has power to do commit changes and things like that on plugins. It's this whole big thing, except for this whole article and this whole thing is about 9 plugins. Did anybody notice that part? Spence, what do you think?
It's the featured plugins, which is weird. So anybody can commit or be a committer on any other plugin apart from these 9 plugins. And I think it's the why it's being addressed is because so many plugins are being bought and sold in the ecosystem, and they don't want any dark players like they've had, somebody doing something silly with it and then making sure that adverts appear at the top of the thing. I think it's a good thing, but it's not going to affect normal plugin developers that have just got a plugin on the repo and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a good thing for sure. Like, we don't want malicious people to do the bait and switch where you buy a plugin or you get a free plugin or something and then they just switch it out and inject malicious code. Yeah, no kidding. But this whole big thing is about literally 9 plugins.
Which is pointless. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it for everyone. But 59,000 approvals have committed. Not going to happen. Right. Manually.
And like the article said, would be an administrative nightmare.
I wanted to point out, I think Andrew touched on this, but I just want to point out the obvious thing. So I think last show, 2 shows ago, 3 shows ago, I showed you there was a really interesting link to a guy who has a JavaScript. You can click a link and you can see the list of all the plugins in the WordPress repository by downloads. And then you can do the same for themes. Now, I'll use one that many of us know that is a beloved exception to all the rules of marketing. It's the Contact Form 7 plugin. There's a Japanese author who is fully vested in his open source thing because he doesn't have a commercial version. There's nothing to buy from him. And even his website is just like a WordPress website, like the free one. I looked at the numbers. First of all, that gets something on the order of, it says 5 million plus, but he has something like tens or hundreds of millions, I forgot, over 55 million downloads. Ask yourself the question, why the F, because I'm not swearing anymore, is that not a featured plugin? Like, why are we looking at a Kismet spam protection or classic widgets or Jetpack or Gutenberg?
I think you know
why
why.
are the same 9 plugins always at the top? Because
they're owned by Automatic.
Is it really? Okay, thanks. I mean, it's rhetorical, right? Like, is it really, first of all, logical for an open source environment not to talk about a plugin that has 55, 100 million, I can look it up again, downloads? And so that's the problem we're facing when we talk about like the WordPress ecosystem and the decision and the governance and everything else. It's like, who's steering the ship and for what purpose? This is your answer right here. It's an automatic, first, foremost, and always kind of a thing. And that's why when we hear these conversations about the WordPress.com store or the WooCommerce store, I die a little inside that people believe that that's actually going to work when you can't even get these things sorted out.
It's like the British government, one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us, isn't it?
It's fine because the rest of the world and the ecosystem is blazing along. Like, look at what Divi's doing. Look at what Elementor's doing. Look at what all the other, like, we're all doing our thing. But there's like 2 worlds like merged together. The pretend this is the way it's supposed to be world and the real world. And I'm saying we're getting articles like this that are funny because they try to make people believe like the propaganda versus the reality. And,
the other thing that cracks me up about this, based on what you're saying, is like all these featured articles are from Automatic. And those are feature plugins. And those are the ones that we're cracking down on. So is Automatic the one that's responsible for all the malicious code? Like, is that what we're trying to like protect ourselves from?
Right.
Like, none of it makes any sense. Vito, what do you think?
Somebody had to say it, right? Somebody had to say that this is basically a nonsense.
This is just for a handful of plugins. And yeah, it is a problem that people sold their plugins and then the new owners like immediately just deleted that plugin and put a new plugin in, and nobody wants that, and that's bad for WordPress as a whole. But yeah, exactly as Spencer said, look at the WordPress hosting page. How you're telling me these are the best hosts out there? We all know what's going on there. So, it's everything is just basically for Automatic's benefit, and that's the world that we exist
I'll
in.
go one further. It's not even always for that, but it's just negligence. For example, I went to the translation page, the official translation page. It's got plugins on there that don't exist anymore. I wrote in using their system. I said I happen to be working with like Weglot, for example. I'm like, can you fix the page to get rid of the broken ones and add in like Weglot? Because they're crickets.
Are you paid by how many times you mention their name in this podcast?
I can name Jonathan Denwood in this new thing we're doing called Sales Funnel Live.
All right, there you go. That's better.
The point is, if you have a company like the Contact Form 7 guy, fine. If you want to make me feel bad, he gets no money from me mentioning Contact Form 7, but WS Forms. You can't deny that that's a force to be reckoned with, right? And if you're talking about like just negligence on maintaining the pages, you have a system. It says right on there, click here, tell us if there's changes. I've done that a dozen times, and I've done it for sure. Motives of a client, but it doesn't make much difference, does it? They don't do anything about it because that's not a priority.
Who is getting those emails?
Huh?
Who is getting these emails?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
where does it
nobody.
go? It goes into like a trough. I mean,
It's like that old suggestion box. It's a little slot that goes straight into the trash can.
I mean, Vito's
I'll tell you
an expert on this because Vito.
we need
Vito's
a
solving the
suggestion box.
But Vito's solving this problem of like how to deal with interaction from clients, right? Like he's the expert of all. You can't just pretend like to take stuff from people as input because that's just like disingenuous.
I just want to say to you, Vito, if you want to mention your virtual summit like 50 times, just feel free because obviously Spencer is being Every time he
Jonathan,
mentions
we talked about the fact when you take the piss out of me for this stuff.
That's good to know
you're,
because
you're
it
going
just
to get the
happens that we have
lawyer is going to come out. I'm just
the
giving
three
you
hosts
Oh,
are here.
fair warning.
Oh my
Fair
God.
warning number one. If we get to 3, all bets are off.
It's just a red
Spence-
flag. It's just a red
Spence
flag.
turned
to
into
the
both a
board.
lawyer and a dad at the same time. He was like, "That's one.
Warning.
Don't make me count to 3." You
We're
guys,
def-
this is the first article. We're already fighting. This is
We're
going
at
to be a long
DEFCON
hour,
1.
everybody.
That's all I'm saying.
DEFCON.
DEFCON 1.
I mean, is there anything else we need to say about this article? Can we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
This is it's just silly. The next article is also on the Tavern, WP Tavern. WooCommerce plans to bring full site editing to support to single product templates.
Awesome.
It's a start, right? Yeah, it's a start. So Vito, what do you think?
I think it's great. Everything is starting to get there. As we were talking about these things for a couple of years, it's starting to get there, and that's great. Well, it also connects to what Spencer was talking about before, because WooCommerce is owned by Automatic. It does seem like the whole flow is just going based on their roadmap, which someone has to do it. Might as well be them, I guess. I don't have so much grievance with that as much as you guys do. I think they're maybe about it not being as transparent as it can be, but they are leading the project. They're
following rather than leaders. Jamie at PortalPress has already got FSE for WooCommerce. He did it a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago.
No, there's a difference there, Andrew. Big companies can't do what we do. It's always going to be like that because maybe they thought about this, or they probably thought about this like 5 years ago, and it just sat there waiting to be done.
I think the key is in plans to. I plan to do an awful lot.
No, it's not a plan. It's the corporate decision-making process. It takes years to get something done. While a single developer just spends a weekend and gets it done.
Well, maybe they need to have a sprint team. This is what's wrong with all of the larger companies that are developing stuff for WordPress, is that they can't sprint. So maybe they need to rethink the top down rather than have the guys.
I think Andrew, it's a consequence. I think we touched that last week when Rob Rowling was on the panel. It's just a consequence of the decision to keep legacy going. You're dealing with a code base that's almost 15 years old. It's amazing that they ship anything. And they were advised when Gutenberg came on the scene that legacy is important. You don't really want to go down what happened to Drupal and Joomla. They made some decisions that were quite damaging. There's a middle, but just to keep this promise of legacy and not as a kind of like the 11th commandment. There has been consequences for that decision, Andrew, and basically it's like what Rob said. It is amazing that they ship anything.
That kills loads of open source projects. The decision to not count anything before, so that what happened with Magento a couple of years ago. Magento 2 came out, and that's it. The ecosystem died because everyone needed to rebuild everything from scratch. It just can't happen. So I see why this is happening, why it's happening slow, and also it just needs. You need to consider that it's not, and I love Jamie's at PortalPress, but it takes. He doesn't have the amount of installs that WooCommerce has, so for him to make an update and maybe. I'm not saying that these websites break anything, but maybe breaking, 5,000, 20,000, 100,000 websites is not the same thing as 5-6 million.
Okay. I want to explain the nuances because PortalPress, my launch flows does it. There's 100 products that allow you as third-party products to modify the layout of the single product template. I want to explain the very subtle nuance here because it sort of goes together with full site editing. Forgetting full site editing for a moment, WooCommerce's single product template is essentially like one box template that has 15 little templates in it for each part. And using hooks and filters, it sort of grabs all the parts and organizes them. And you have to do old school PHP and stuff to turn on and off or reprioritize stuff. It's just old and like janky. It's like using a manual printing press or something versus a word processor. Everybody else in the third-party world, especially PoodlePress, Jamie's amazing. I love that product. And he inspired me to just throw that kind of thing into launch flows. He made it easy for people in Gutenberg to just, hey, man, rearrange the things in blocks. And what he did is he took the pieces and made them separate. WooCommerce has been struggling. They have a plugin called WooCommerce Blocks. They've been struggling to do this for the checkout page and for the other pieces because when they do it, it's not simply, they can't do what Jamie or I or third parties do, which is like, I'm going to focus on one part of it. As Vito says, they have to fix it from the top down so they don't break the crap out of like 50 million sites. And that's why everything is so hard for them. Even this, it's janky. Like it doesn't really let you move stuff around. It lets you turn stuff on and off and sliders. And they notice that they put in a classic thing. So if you use the full site editing theme and you go to the single product page, there's one block now that's sort of like we took the templates and shoved it into the block. And so even though poor Jonathan's falling asleep on me, the point is full site editing and doing single product templates are something that many people have to right now choose. What is the tool to use? Either use native WooCommerce stuff and go for the long haul, or jump ship and go to like an Elementor, a Divi, a PoodlePress or something, because that's the way you'll get the results today and you'll get a more agile developer. You'll get like things today, tomorrow that will take years to figure out in WooCommerce.
Good
Boom,
point.
that's it.
By the way, you're at DEF CON 2. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, that would be great. I mean, I seen somebody asking the other day, is there any e-commerce solution on WordPress that's bigger than WooCommerce? And I think the answer is clear that WooCommerce is the biggest, but the real threat is from solutions like Shopify or even BigCommerce that in the enterprise, there's different things that you can do with the API that WooCommerce is a little bit limited on. So, and I actually ran into this.
Rally?
In real life, yes. So these are the things that I think are like holding it back. And I would still, if anybody from Automatic is listening, I would still like to have some kind of solution where you get access to all the plugins on WooCommerce for a set fee. So like unlimited $9.99 or $6.99 or whatever, access to all the plugins, unlimited sites. That would be awesome, and I think that you'd make more money from that. So
I agree. I totally agree with that process.
Yeah.
You know, sell it, pilot high, sell it cheap. You know, that's how Mars bars became as big as they are.
So many people ask me that too. I completely agree because it's amazing how penny wise, dollar foolish people are. They go, oh, WooCommerce, I had to buy all the add-ons. And it's like, but when you add them up, there's only a couple, but they just think of it like, endless upsells.
Because
But
it's
sometimes it's
positioned
not.
as a free thing. So when you go in with the mindset that this is free and then you end up having to pay, that's what makes it
Right.
annoying and frustrating people.
Like that inkjet printer and ink thing. You know, they see it coming.
Yeah. Painful.
Guys, why don't we move on to our next story? This is a fun one for me. because
Wait, well,
I'm a
we
Divi
got
girl.
approval to talk about the summit, Stephanie.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we're gonna
Just saying. I'm just saying.
go for it whenever
Is
you're
that the
ready.
summit that Stephanie and I are co-hosts on? That one.
That's
Yeah,
I
we
think
have
that's what
three
he's talking
hosts
about.
in this room today.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, maybe you just do a section about this if you're up for it.
Thanks, Vito. I was gonna but let's go to our next story right now, though. We all get a chance to make a recommendation at the end, and I know what mine's going to be. All right, masterwp.com, a case for Divi in an evolving WordPress universe. I'm a Divi girl. I'm not like a hater of the other ones, but this is my builder of choice. I've been using it since day one. I know Andrew Palmer's a big Divi fan too. What did you think about this article, Andy?
I think it's great, and I think that he's not wrong. Is that Divi has had
break down what he says in the article.
Well, basically, read out what he says. So full site editing seems to be trying to play to the middle ground here.
Don't read it. Just give us the gist in case somebody hasn't read the article.
That Divi is the first choice for full site editing. That's basically.
Wake up, Andrew! For God's sake, wake up!
I can't. It's just she's such a hard host. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like knocking the head against the wall. Basically, Divi has had full site editing.
I know you're still in America, for God's sake. Wake up.
I'm not in America. I'm back in the UK.
Listen, you two. Don't make me separate.
Sean and I developed a long time ago the Divi layout injector, which basically gave you header, footer, post content, and all that kind of stuff. Divi took their time with Theme Builder. Elementor saw the opportunity with Theme Builder as well. So these page builders have had full site editing for, let's say, 18 months. So way ahead of Gutenberg, way ahead of WordPress. And I think what happens with these things, and also let's face it, Gutenberg really don't have the layouts. What Divi and Elementor do, or Divi specifically have done for a long time, especially with Divi Cloud now, which I developed 4.5 years ago. So they take a while to catch up to what the developers do. We had Layouts Cloud for Divi 5 years ago. Now they've got Divi Cloud. It's almost the perfect web building solution on top of WordPress.
Whoa, those are some big words.
No, it is. I'm very strongly in favor of Divi. Don't get me wrong, but the point is that if you use Divi, you literally can build a website in moments.
Divi people, there's a place in hell. There's a place in hell for you.
People don't appreciate that there's been other builders around for years in motion hosting. Have had Bold Grid, and it's on Bluehost as well, which has been a full site editing plugin for years. Bold Grid. I get it, but you don't use these things. I grew up on WordPress with using page builders and going the easy route, like the no code route. And Bold Grid is really quite an excellent solution. Divi is an excellent solution. It's allowed and it's opened up WordPress to millions of users, just like Elementor has. If we had to do what we do in Divi, Elementor, Site Origin, even who's got like 5 million plus downloads free as well, it was by this South African developer. The developers of page builders have helped WordPress become 43% of the ecosystem, because actually, if you look at it, 10 million downloads of Elementor, millions of downloads and installs of Divi, millions of downloads of Site Origin. There's a page builder that Vito uses, which I never remember, but you used to install that for your customers by default when you had your agency. What's it called?
Cornerstone. It was awesome.
Cornerstone, really easy page builder and editor to use. And I think what WordPress have missed, and why they're developing Gutenberg and why they're going into full site editing, is that they've seen these page builders really blasting into vertical space with the benefits of having a system that you can do your headers, your footers, your menus, your everything that you can do, custom post types and everything. So I love this article and the fact that he admits that he was not a Divi fan or anything and decided to dive into it just like I did. And now he's saying it's the de facto. Basically, that's what this article says, is that Divi is the de facto for building your WordPress website out. And I've got to agree with him.
I don't necessarily agree. Like, it's just another solution, but they're all catching up to each other. And you were mentioning this Cornerstone solution. They had header and footer builders 6 years ago, and they were brilliant. It was drag and drop. Everything was in there, like you can do everything that you do now with all of these tools like 6 years ago. And more than what you can do with Gutenberg and the site editing right now.
For sure.
But why is Divi different than Elementor or Beaver Builder or these kind of things? They're all kind of running around the same. Some have this one more feature and that one more feature, but it's all just a matter of personal preference at this point. What you gotten used to, and that's what a lot of people keep using. Jonathan is there getting bored about discussion around Divi because you've been using Beaver Builder for a decade.
Oh,
Beaver
man,
Builder is not the most.
I think the key is what Spencer. I don't totally, surprise, listeners, agree absolutely with what Spencer said, but this is classic why Spencer is on the right track. This this is pure WordPress craziness. It's just fragmenting the market, duplicating. It is the king of duplication, isn't it, Spencer? You got all these page building companies duplicating everything they're doing, aren't they?
WordPress is software, right? We use Windows, we use Macs, Apple Macs. We can't, if you have an Apple Mac and no other app installed on it, you can't use it. It's unusable. Same with Windows. You couldn't use Notepad to write complex documents. You couldn't use Notepad to write. You could, because you'd write it in HTML or whatever. You can't use Notepad to write complex slide shows. So all of what's happening with these bits of software like Divi, Elementor, Site Origin, all the page builders we've mentioned, they're apps that we add to WordPress, right? And WordPress is the base software. Great, make it work. Keep it secure. And then we add an app onto it. WooCommerce is an app, and that's the point, is that it might be.
Yeah, but Andrew,
might be powering 43% of the web, but it's a bit of software. You've got to think.
Yeah, but Andrew, I think all these things are linked. I think the link trying to put Gutenberg in core, not accepting, then linking the decision to keep the legacy to the level it was and not take the opportunity to. I know it's like what Vito said, if you go if it's managed in the way that some other open source projects were, it could be disastrous, but I personally feel there was ways of managing it. But the decision to keep the legacy, to put Gutenberg into core, these have had consequences, and the consequence has been also, I feel, not providing a really roadmap. It's been a little bit of a, this is my perception when it comes to Gutenberg, a bit of a defocused, little bit of a dyslexic wonder about where we're taking it. I should know because I have dyslexia. There doesn't seem, and these consequences, I feel you're ending up in a little bit of a hot mess, Andrew, to be quite truthful. But I might be wrong. So
the truth of it is as far as page builders and a lot of the discussion in WordPress is around page builders and how this is the easier way to go. Elementor and Divi are the two biggest ones. Okay. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. And I saw some people talking yesterday about how Divi sucks because it's not accessible and you shouldn't use it. But there are millions of sites that do use it. I know there are many agencies within the WordPress space that use it. And I have a client, or had a client, I should say. They went and did their own thing. But they basically, and their site was built by a very reputable company in the WordPress space. But they said that they were going to rebuild their site on Divi because that's what they were comfortable with. And this is the business owner themselves. So, which they haven't done to date, but that's what they're comfortable with. So Divi is a solution for a lot of people. And if somebody comes to you like a potential client and they don't have the a big budget, that is a solution for getting a site done. And I've built sites like that for clients. Divi is not my first choice, for sure, but I've done that for people before. So it's a solution. Like there are a lot of solutions like Beaver Builder, Elementor, or anything else out there.
The final point here in the article is talking about actually the comparison not between this page builder versus others, but between a page builder or some kind of of a tool compared to just straight up building this from scratch, right? Coding the whole thing from scratch. I think that is super outdated, you know. So we used to do that as well 10 years ago, and there's just no need. Like, why would you walk on
Well,
fire if you can walk around it, you know?
4 years ago, I did a presentation at the Bristol meetup, and it was to persuade developers to use a page builder, and it was around all the page builders that were around at the time. Now, I don't know whether the presentation was good enough, but it was a 30-minute presentation, and it covered every aspect that I thought I should cover. But the Q&A from the developers, because they're in their own little bubble and they're developing and they're coding, it was basically why coders should use page builders. 45 minutes, there was a queue of people queuing up saying, how do I do this? What do I do? You know, how much is this? And what do you recommend? Show me some more sites that have been built with Divi. And we converted loads of people to Divi and Elementor and whoever it was. But the thing is exactly as you say, Vito, why reinvent the wheel? You know, if you can get something up and running and you're a coder, you can make your profit or your profit from building very quickly, iterating very quickly, and then using your coding skills, you can knock every single competitor out of the marketplace because you're the coder, right? So you can code anything in these things because the base is WordPress.
And these are the things you're going to be discussing in Vito's virtual summit that's coming up, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about growth. We're going to be talking about page builders. We're going to be talking about accessibility. We're going to be talking about an awful lot of things. And yeah, Vito, myself, and Stephanie are co-hosting it, and it's going to be massive. It starts on the 26th of April and goes through to the 29th of April.
I want to flip something on its head too, because in 2014, the page builder revolution started with Divi really becoming mainstream. And at that point, when I was, for the previous number of years, 8 years, I guess, like teaching people how to build with Bootstrap and HTML, clearly there was no point. And the thing I want to bring to this article and what you guys both kind of agreed with is I actually would not suggest that it's WordPress as the base piece and the other things are the Lego stuck on top, but rather we've now seen Elementor and Divi saying all of the pieces are just Legos. And what we're suggesting to our customer base is we're going to take a mix that's going to have Elementor and all the Elementor stuff. And WordPress is one of those Lego blocks in there. And Divi is saying ours is all, you know, blah, blah, blah blocks, and WordPress is in there. But it's just like a kit of Legos that we're offering our flavor of. But Devin's point is so true. You'd be out of your mind as a business person today to deliver a site to a person that required you to go and edit it and fix it, because the client is just going to be like, are you crazy? Like, I can just do this on my own. So in order to even start the conversation, but it is true that you have to pick a flavor. And I'm saying, in maybe agreement, maybe not with what Jonathan says, that it's not really WordPress and then things on top of it. It's just, here's a box of stuff, here's a box of stuff. And I think Elementor and Divi are making it very clear that they're attracting audiences to their box of stuff. And WordPress is just part of it.
So I kind of disagree with that, because WordPress is still the base. It's still the operating system of all of the other things. So it's like saying that, or you can even go one layer down and say it's actually cPanel or Plesk, you know.
It's like a computer maker, Vito. Like if you look at the PC market, okay, there's 10,000 computer makers. Yeah, they all include Windows in it. Like
yeah,
Windows.
The thing is, we've got a comment here from our one only listener, but no, we've got loads of people listening. You know, what always amazed me, the criticism that Elementor got about performance, Divi managed to sidestep it. In my experience, Divi is the worst of the worst when it comes to performance. It's, you know, if you want treacle, use Divi, but there we go. But that's my...
Be nice, Jonathan. Also, it has improved a lot recently.
They have fixed it, but it's definitely, they moved into a space where they've had to make a lot of changes because they went design first at the expense of performance and at the expense of other mechanics. Elementor went mechanics first, but they've all kind of come back into the mainstream, realizing that they can't overcome the negative publicity of like the Divi thing takes.
So Spencer, what do you just to finish off? You know, obviously Elementor, you know, it's going big into utilizing Flexbox. Do you think when it settles down, do you think that will make a big difference to Elementor, Spencer, using Flexbox?
my prediction, because remember, I was talking about this a while back. I was joking about it years ago, even like Wix being involved in this. I see that now we are looking at 3 powerful business ecosystems. There's Divi with 850,000 plus paid users, which is still huge. Elementor with 5 to 8 million. I'm not sure how many are paid, but that's huge. And then WordPress everything else, which of course is really the bulk of it. And I say that it's irrelevant.
Irregardless.
I was off on it. It's irrelevant to anybody about the features of Divi, features of Elementor, features of Gutenberg before they decide which one they're going to be in. Because again, like the PC manufacturer thing, I'm buying Dell, I'm buying, this no-name brand. First, you decide which company you're buying from for the other features and components, and then you go into the nuances. Because either way, Elementor and Divi both have demonstrated that they're way more agile and way more capable of attracting third-party plugins and software. But you really now, more than ever, you really have to pick a team. Because Elementor 3.6 shit the bed on a whole bunch of people with their deprecating APIs and other stuff. And they're going like this while they're laughing.
Defecating APIs?
In other words, there was
With the
APIs that a
defecating-
lot of things in WordPress relied on for other plugins. When they did this update, they literally said, we don't care. We got to go where we're going to go. I mean, I love that, but they're like, either get on board or don't. And I think that's kind of the thing that has to happen, because otherwise, like our first story, you sit in nowhere land forever.
Right. No, we do need to move on. I did want to add one little thing, but you guys haven't even taken a breath on this article. That there was an article linked in this one to one from from last week or something, talking about what is WordPress actually trying to be? So they're sort of like, are they going to be like, is democratizing publishing really what they're after now? Or are they trying to be the new Squarespace? And what, are they a free publishing platform? Or are they, so then like they're sort of teetering between these two worlds, and the full site editing makes that even more blurry. So anyway, there will be more to come. We need to move on, unfortunately, because this is a fun one to talk about. But let's hear quickly from our sponsor, real quick. Okay, we're back, everybody. While we are at a pause, I wanted to remind everybody that at 10 a.m. Pacific on Fridays, there's a new show that you need to watch. And it's not, whatever you do not Google the funnel machine, because you don't want to see what comes up from that. What's the show called? I forgot to write it down.
Sales Funnels Live. Sales Funnels Live.
The Sales Funnels Live.
Not the,
no,
it's
I know.
three words. Sales Funnels Live.
Sales Funnels Live.
It wasn't the friends at the coffee shop, and it wasn't
on the Facebook.
It wasn't Big Bang Theory. It's specifically Sales Funnels Live. And that's to avoid what shows up on Google when you did that other thing. Trust me.
So Spencer and Jonathan are going to run through some sales funnels. They're going to do some teardowns.
It's just worth coming to watch the train wreck.
They'll probably fight about it if I know them.
We're 2.5 now.
2.5. Yeah, they're going to fight.
This is going to
may or may not be some swearing. Anyway.
This new series with Jonathan is going to be it's going to be 1.5 episodes, and then it's going to be over. If he keeps going at this pace, it's
10 a.m. Pacific on Fridays on the WP-Tonic YouTube.
Andrew and Vito on the next show, by the way. Maybe Jonathan.
She's trying to promote your show, Gobby. Shut up while it goes on. What time is it on?
10 a.m. Pacific on Fridays, everybody.
That's it.
All right.
I don't know what she's referring to, because it's not the name of the show. It's not her fault. It's Jonathan's fault.
Sales Funnels Live.
I love, by the way, you are actually one of the best hosts we ever had, and it has nothing to do with you. This is Jonathan keeps interrupting and throwing things at you that are false starts and the wrong name, and then he thinks he's being funny, but that's not good marketing.
Listen, I'm the hostess with the mostness, and you know
anymore.
I'm going to be because
Andrew,
you can't handle it.
We've got an idea for a new show, you and I. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And then, so yeah, hosting here, we're going to be hosting Atarim, and then Spence and I are going to be hosting a little something.
Stephanie, I'm coming down to hang out with you for the next show too, for your next live event.
Heck yeah, it's going to be so fun. All right. On to the next article, you guys.
He's
Master WP.
You're like, it's like I have 3 kids and Jonathan. as before.
Stop, you two. All right, I'm gonna have to separate you two now, man. That's
You can mute Jonathan if you're
it's a
co-host.
disaster. He can unmute himself though. It's pointless. All right, WordCamps in the time of COVID. How to safely start meeting up with others in tech again. I just had opportunity to go do a little traveling around, do some meetings, not meetups, but some meetings. I was with none other than Mr. Andrew Palmer for some of those. And I was astonished at how much just like that things have completely opened up in the US. I don't know if that's going to cause a problem down the road, but and then I'm planning on being at WordCamp Europe. I'm hoping that stays open. Are any of you guys going to be there?
Yeah, we're going to be. I think that's. I'm really looking forward to WordPress Europe, but in my heart, I just hope it doesn't turn into a COVID super event that spreads it all over Europe again.
Well,
How many are going to be in attendance at that event? Do you know?
I think like 2,000 or so.
3,000 plus, but they're saying there's a mask policy now. They've just issued yesterday the COVID policy for what I am. So everybody inside the building, they prefer if they wore masks, but we'll see how it goes. You know, I was on my last flight back from Atlanta and then back to the UK, no masks.
Yeah, that changed like literally like yesterday.
Overnight. And the attitude of the pilots as well was saying, you know, breathe easy. Well, do you know what? I'm going to breathe easy wearing my mask. And the person sitting next to me was still wearing the mask. And
you kept yours on?
Yeah, I kept mine on. Yeah. Well, I'm used to wearing a mask. It doesn't bother me wearing a mask. I'm cool with it. I don't know why it bothers people, really.
Honestly, on the airplanes, I think that's some of the best like the engineers that they've done the tests and stuff, where the way the air flows and all of that, it's actually in the way how often it's recycled and stuff. It's actually one of the best places, which is weird because I feel like people used to always get sick on airplanes anyway. So I don't know, but yeah, I think of all places,
you've got a sick bag, haven't you, with a mask on? It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie Spencer like to put a muzzle on me.
That is true. Yeah. He's probably not alone. But it's
That's really
I would say wearing
that
he already knows what's going to happen after the show. We're going to have a conversation. He's going to have to talk to me after the show already. You're going to go to the principal's office. I would say what's nice about the masks now is that you can still, and I do it selectively. Like if I go to Costco, it's just like so many people. The truth is, wearing a mask, and I'm an outgoing person, as you guys can tell, it just gives you a sense of like, look, I don't need to hassle anybody anymore, but like, I don't even need to say I'm making a statement. It's just, I want to wear a mask when I'm in a plane full of smelly people, honestly. And I have very sensitive smells and stuff. It's like, it's just easier. And the other part of it is, you know, like celebrities say how they don't want to be approached. It's like, you don't have to, people don't hassle you and see your facial expression with a mask on. It's like, it's sort of saying, don't bother me. And I like that, you know.
They don't notice how much I talk to myself. Yeah. You save 50% on makeup. It's, you know, doesn't matter if you have food in your teeth. So many advantages.
My makeup costs have just gone right
I
down.
know.
I am still wearing a mask like when I go anywhere in public. And if I were to attend a WordCamp, that would be the same. I don't know if I'd be around that many people, though. And the reason being is there's just a lot of people that don't believe in masks, and they believe it's some infringement of personal liberty to infect other people. But here's the thing. There are people, a smaller number than there were before, but there are still people in our own community that are anti-mask and are hardcore, you know, far-right people. But just keep in mind, like friend of the show, Brian Jackson, he just went through a long bout with COVID. And he's a person who's at risk. There are a lot of people who are immunocompromised. Maybe they have cancer or they have, you know, some other disease or diabetes, any of these things. The effects of long COVID still aren't really known, but a lot of people are seeing that there's long-term cardiovascular, respiratory, or brain issues, and those aren't things that I really want to risk. And I have someone in my life that is immunocompromised too, so I don't want to put that person at risk. But yeah, I mean, you know, mask up. It's common sense, you know, and it's not that big of a deal.
Andrew, do you know the WordCamp Europe? Is it you got to be fully vaccinated to
No,
attend?
you've got to be either fully vaccinated or give a negative test.
Right.
So even if you're unvaccinated, like some people are unvaccinated, so you have to. There's particular reasons why people aren't vaccinated.
See,
some stuff. So we have to allow the people that are unvaccinated, even if it's a choice, to be in the world somehow, because they can still contribute. But we need to, I don't know whether, I'm not a doctor, I don't know whether masks are effective, but I, touch wood, have been all over the world, all over America twice now in 6 months. I have avoided COVID. I don't know why. I'm very lucky. We went to CloudFest, 7,000 people at CloudFest.
Yeah, but loads got COVID at CloudFest after.
Yeah, I didn't get COVID.
Did they? It was a super event, Vito, was it?
It was a great event, and we
was it worse? Was it worse than WordCamp US? Sorry.
But I'm lucky not to have it, but I'm triple vaxxed. I'm double vaxxed and boosted. So, and there's another boosting coming. I believe in vaccination.
You mean double waxed?
But I'm double waxed. Yeah. Let's not get personal here, love. How did you know? But anyways,
we share the room with CloudFest.
Yeah, that's true. Stop it.
I will say this. I think when we were at the recurring revenue retreat in November, Andrew, that's where you and I met in person, and that was a smaller event. There was only about 100 people there.
Sure.
Right. And so that was a little bit more like, that was my first venturing out since COVID. And so I was a little nervous about it and everything. I don't think nobody that I heard of got sick after that. But again, it was a small event. And I'm telling you, after that event, everyone there was so pumped up and so energized by the human connection and the conversations that we had and the networking and the talks were like the smallest part of any of it, right? Because these events are so powerful to connect our, make our networks and to make connections and relationships and start businesses and all of these other kind of things.
Do the workshops as well. We did, workshops.
Yeah,
were great. It was great.
They were, and it was really, to me, I thought, gosh, this is, especially after 2 years of nothing, it's so important that we start that once we're able to do it safely, that we start doing it, and
Sure.
I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a online summit next week. I don't know if you guys heard about that. So those are still good too, but there is nothing compares to that in-person connection that you get when you go to these things. And if you haven't ever been to a WordCamp or a meetup or something like that, I encourage you to try it, because you'll be shocked. It doesn't really make logical sense why they're so powerful, but they are. The thing is, we have to be able to do it without everybody catching a horrible virus from it. So it's a fine line to walk, I guess.
It is.
Yeah. Well, humans feed off of each other's energy, so that's one of the main things that you see there, because it's not enough to just walk around people. It's about the interaction. It's about bouncing energy off of each other. So that's what really is making such a huge impact at these events. And yeah, I'm excited. This year, we're sponsoring the Europe, and I'm speaking, which was one of the things that I set as a goal when I first started the company, to speak there specifically at WordCamp Europe. So
yeah, you stole my slot. I think they didn't pick me.
Right.
Jerk. Yeah.
I never got a call, but Vito never calls me to go on his virtual summit.
Yeah,
So
well,
there we go.
whatever.
Well,
Spencer's speaking, and
Spencer's got something
most
to
of
say
the
to
people
me
on
after
this
the
talk are
show.
gonna
So
be
there we go.
engaging. John, I don't know why you're not part of it, man. I know why Jonathan isn't.
Yeah, I think that's very debate. All right.
Vito sort of muddled you. Hey, we've got to move on, guys. We're running out of time today. As Spencer knows, when the clock runs out, everything goes dark.
It's like text messaging, that all the digital bits disappear when you run out of them.
Yep, totally.
There's none left.
We're moving on to The Verge. Tesla workers in Shanghai will reportedly sleep and eat in the factory after COVID shutdowns. So we're talking about how great it is to be in person. You know what would be even better is if we all just moved into WordCamp Europe, right? Let's just all sleep and eat. Is this insane? Who wants to start? Because this is nuts. John Locke, I know you got something to say about it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know, this is how stuff runs in China. I guess. You know, I don't know. I don't have like a strong opinion on this. This is how they run stuff. I don't have any control over that. You know, this when COVID was first outbreaking, you've seen people being sealed in their apartments and stuff like that. I know Shanghai is in the news. I know Jonathan probably suggested this story. I don't have a lot of love for Tesla either. I know how they run stuff.
You never say, John. I would never get that impression.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. Everybody. Yeah, I know. I had that rap. I know. But yeah, I you know, I guess I feel bad for the workers. You know, but how's that case going with California, like suing Tesla for racial discrimination? I guess we'll see on that. But you know, I don't want to. It's really tough because, like, with this topic, with COVID and anything with China, it turns into, it's really easy to turn it into a thing where it's like, you know, those damn Chinese, and I don't want it to be like that.
No.
Well, I think this is a non-story because this is what happens in China. It's only a story because it's got Tesla's name on it.
Yeah, true.
There are factories in China where there are 12. They're like hotels, right? So they're gated communities, and your accommodation is next to the manufacturing that you do. Intel have the same situation. You know, that all the chip companies who manufacture in China, Apple, all of them, all of the factory workers are 12-hour day, 6 days a week, living in. As a chef, I know what this is like because I used to live in when I worked in restaurants. You live in because you're right there because you're working silly hours. You get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do the breakfasts. You go to bed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is why I need my afternoon naps because it's ingrained in my DNA. But 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you have a little nap. 6 o'clock at 7 o'clock in the evening, you're working again. And this is how China works. So I don't understand. Well, I do understand because it's got Tesla's name connected to it. But all of this has been going on for decades in China, where the workers live at the factory. So I don't really see.
Yeah, I was
the
thinking
difference.
too.
Is it right or wrong? I don't know. I can't tell you that. I live in UK and I live
like
at
that
home
the first shift started earlier this week, and it goes to May 1st.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the first shift.
We're all working from home, so aren't we sleeping at the factory?
Well, exactly.
We're
living in.
right.
We're living in.
I was in two minds about this story. Does the panel want to remark about the announcement from Chris Lemmer leaving Liquid Web? Have you got any views on that, panel?
Well, I didn't realise he was quite so into the church. That's one thing that I was struck by.
I'm calling him Saint Lemmer.
Well, whatever it is, I think, you know, we all have to move on sometimes.
Also works.
Do we not have to move on? You know, he's been 5 years. I felt, and he might slap me at R3 when I see him there, when I go there, wherever it is at Disneyland. But I thought that when he became general manager of LearnDash, I thought that was a Peter principle. We can't promote this guy any higher, so we'll move him sideways. And I thought LearnDash, I think I said maybe even to Stephanie, I thought that Chris was almost demoted when he became general manager of LearnDash.
I think you did say that. Yeah.
And that he would be moving on. And I was right. So there you go. He's moving on to something that he feels in his heart and his soul. And that's really cool as well when you've got something that you really relate to. And he's moving along to Sereth, who is a thing from the Bible or whatever. But it's, you know, he's focusing. He's doing what he tells everybody else to do. He's niching down, right? So he's moving on. I think it's cool. I think it's very cool. And it's about time. So
Jonathan, do you want to say anything about it? What do you think?
Liquid Web, come to me. I can do stuff.
Well,
Available.
maybe John Locke's got something to say. Do you want to say something, John?
No, everybody knows that me and Chris have heat, so I'm not going to say anything about it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Jonathan, are you trying to stir up
cool.
trouble? Good for
He
you,
is,
John.
yeah.
I applaud that mature response, which is
I
a rare
refrain.
and special thing on the WP-Tonic show. So thank you so much. You guys, how about we move on to our panel recommendations for the week? Does anybody want to jump? I've got to remember mine. I thought of it last night. I
I'll
was like,
start
that'd be
then.
perfect.
I'll start.
No, I can't remember.
I've already upset Spencer, so I might as well finish it off.
great.
He knows he's going to the principal's office, so now
Finish
he's like
him.
he's
I'm
doubling
gonna
down
get,
on it.
I'm gonna
Doesn't
get
matter
the lawyer.
anymore.
I'm gonna get the
Getting
lawyer
another
look
ticket for
after
the car,
this.
you know.
Oh,
You already got
shit.
the ticket, so fine. I'm gonna keep the car parking there.
There we go.
You don't need to be scared of the lawyer. It's when Papa Spencer comes out that you got to watch
Yeah.
out.
Exactly. Like you should be more worried about the fact how quiet and calm I am right now, Jonathan. Because
He's not even mad. He's just
when we have our little
disappointed.
talk.
I always like Spencer when he always know he loves me when he calls me unprofessional. You know, there we go.
All right, Jonathan, what's your rec?
Well, it's not weblog. That's all right. It's Transpress and combining it with DP. If you're looking for the best DeepL.
That's
if you're
an L.
looking,
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. So if you're looking for the best value combination of translation, multi-language for your client, I've been looking at them all, and I think this is a great combination and great value. So I have the links and have a look at those. Sorry, Weblog. Sorry, Spencer. I know you're getting paid for every time you mention them, but there we are. Over to you, Stephanie.
Well, I'm gonna jump the line and go next so that I don't get mine stolen, because I'm gonna recommend the Atarim Summit next week.
He's gonna kill me. He's gonna cut my balls
I'm
off.
gonna Please don't. We're not talking about balls on the show this week, okay? I'm gonna recommend the Atarim Summit. Come hang out. I don't know. We've mentioned it like 27 times already. It's going to be great. We're going to do 4 days, Tuesday through Friday next week. It's in EST time zone, which is super handy for me. So it's from like 9 to 5 or 6 in the evening. It'll be a lot of fun. Come hang out. Who's next? We'll give Vito time to come up with a new one.
Yeah, I need a new one now.
John Locke, what do you recommend?
Yeah, I got one. It is the Heart and Hustle podcast. If you're an entrepreneur, you will enjoy this podcast. So, especially if you are melaninated. Anyway,
Melanated.
yeah, it's run by
I'm
Angelic. Yeah, well, you can still listen to it. You can still
we're-
listen to it. Yeah,
We're melanin challenged.
you can still listen to it. Yeah,
I know. I was just
Cool.
kidding. Andrew, what you got?
Well, I'm going to recommend the Atarim Summit because there's some real people that I want to recommend, and I persuaded him to do it as well, which is Noah Britton and some very good friends that I stayed with in Chicago. Hans Schooler is from Termageddon. He's going to say how to say no to clients, and I spent so much time with them that I hear their conversations on the phone when they're talking and onboarding their Termageddon clients. He's a really skillful salesperson, and he's able to say no as well as yes, and I think that's what it is. But I'll be doing it. I'll be co-hosting as well, and I'll be watching loads of people. We've got some good people on there. We've got Robert Jacoby, we've got Rosie Robinson, who I was lucky enough to coach, and she's going to talk about how she's grown her business and running a solo agency. So there's some good stuff there. So 26th through the 29th of April, join me, Stephanie, and Vito on the atarim.io/summit. That's all I can do. It's going to fill our lives for the next 4 days, or for the next week. Crazy.
Oh,
Next.
did you call me? I have one from this is a scenario many people have now when they're trying to use WooCommerce, is they're concerned about whether it's going to just slow down their site. I hear this a lot. Like, people actually try to put their e-commerce on a separate subdomain. So there's a blog post here from I don't know if it's puri.io, but how to traffic load and test your WooCommerce site. And it's very revealing what happens, because if you have basic modern hosting, like, you know, the kind that comes from Cloudways or something else that has, you know, your 4 gigabytes of RAM and so forth, you really do fine. But a lot of it just has to do with things like optimizing on the back end using object cache. And so you can see the results. And WooCommerce is very agile. It will scale up on even basic hardware. It's more about just making sure you've got some things on the back end set up right. So this was really helpful because a lot of our clients start out, you know, with one product and no customers, and then they very quickly have page load issues, and it's stuff that's fixable.
Well, it's very similar. It's very similar to if you got a membership or a buddy boss kind of thing. You know, you just need people that know what they're doing and decent modern hosting, don't you, Spencer?
Yeah. What this does is it gives you like an automated test. So it like will tell you how much load your site will handle, like simulating users. And I think that's revealing, you know.
And like automatic, just go to Bluehost and you'll find all that quality set up for you.
We found it, like, great. Well, but even with automatic, like, even if you go WP engine, it's not.
Your experience of WordPress is going to be superb, isn't it? You know, just fantastic.
I mean, all jokes aside, like, people get sold on this certain hosting package that they claim is, you know, managed and whatever. Even if you double the RAM or double the storage or whatever, it doesn't always affect it as much as some simple optimizations on the like the object caching.
Even better, go to GoDaddy and sample their support. The experience.
I think either Jonathan took something new or failed to take something he should have taken this week. That's the only way I can explain what's going on. Andrew, what do you think? I mean, he is off his meds or on his meds. I don't know what's going on today.
Which do you prefer, though, Spence? It's a tough call.
Either that or he's had an early cocktail hour. He had a big.
I've had a rough week, Spence.
A Bloody Mary.
It's going to get worse after my chat with you after this.
You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
I'm going to show my compassion for the temporarily disabled this morning.
Jonathan's hair is the same color.
I mean, I
didn't know you were a redhead, Jonathan. I just realized that when you leaned into the camera. We have a 50% ginger panel today. Whoa.
It's the poor quality of my life.
Like that's something special. All right, Vito, what do you got for the tribe?
So I'm going to recommend the Atarim Agency Summit.
Oh, that sounds interesting. What's it all about?
I wanted to kind of make sure that we cover all the bases here. And I was hoping Spencer was going to do this, you know, at least pitch your talk, because you have a really interesting talk coming up there as well. But I want to touch about this from like the 4 categories, just so people understand what is the point here with the event. First of all, it's the largest event in the world for web agencies and freelancers, and specifically is in the WordPress space. And the idea is that there's more than 40 sessions with that are divided into 4 tracks that span not necessarily on the tech side, or we're not really focusing on what use this plugin or that plugin or the next line of code that will optimize your life. It's more about growing the business. So the categories span from the beginning of how to create websites for clients, which is a completely different ballgame compared to creating a website for yourself. And then goes into expand, where you learn about how to go beyond the family and friends and the cousin that needs a website and try to create some kind of a sustainable business. And then we're going into scale, where we're talking about hiring, profitability, all of the things all of the challenges that happen when you start getting clients through the door. And then finally, there is the Thrive category, where it's a lot about mindset, which I think is the most important thing in business, as well as success stories from massive agencies. There are some agencies that have more than 500 employees that are going to share their journeys and how they got to there. There's the agencies that work with Google, or that build the stuff for Google inside WordPress, that are coming in to share their stories in there. We brought in some top experts from HubSpot as well as the Google, and so this year we really went all out when it comes to the quality of the speakers, and you never get to see these guys talking publicly, and especially not completely for free. So come and join us. 4 days starting from Tuesday until Friday. 40 sessions, full packed days. There's the networking lounge. We have the biggest companies in the space all sponsoring, which means that they're giving away loads of free stuff. So come in, spin the wheel, and win some cool things in their booths. And come mostly for Stephanie.
There we go.
Mostly.
It sounds
Oi.
it sounds fabulous, Vito, and
Thank
you
you.
can send the sponsorship check to me next week. Right? Right.
Thanks everybody for being here. I hope you have a great week. I hope to see you at the summit next week. And I won't be here on Friday, I don't think, because I'll be occupied with the summit. But you guys have a great show, and everybody behave while I'm not here. All right. See you later.
See ya.